Good morning, ma'am. Good morning, sir.
Hello, Vasu.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Ma'am, my apologies for the interruption in the last.
Okay. I just wanted to ask you something.
Yes, ma'am.
Uh, what was the first, amendment, and in Constitution? When was it done?
Yes. Ma'am, the first amendment was brought in the year 1951, just around 14 months after the enactment of the Constitution, 16 months after the enactment of the Constitution. To be precise, in May 1951. The first amendment was a result of series of judgment, like Romesh Thapar versus Romesh Thapar, Romila Thapar judgment, uh, Bridge Brij Bhushan judgment. In the and through the First Amendment, the ninth schedule was added to the Constitution, wherein the laws could be put on the schedule, and those laws would not be checked on the legality of the Supreme Court would not check the legality of such laws.
Are you sure about the names? Romila Thapar and all.
Ma'am, Romesh Thapar, 1950, and Brij Bhushan judgment.
Tell me something about Article 15. What was that amendment?
Which amendment, ma'am?
Article 15.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, so the Madras province has provided some reservation in education institution, and that reservation was on the basis of caste. So that was challenged before the courts, and the Supreme Court struck that down, saying it is against Article 14 and 15 because we support equality. However, to provide affirmative action for the weaker sections, that amendment was brought in Article 15, wherein the provision was added that the state or the government can take affirmative action or do positive discrimination for the betterment of the socially and educationally backward sections of the community.
Today is a very important day. Can you tell us something about this?
Today is the birth anniversary of Dr. Bhim Rao Ambedkar.
Who's he?
Dr. Bhim Rao Ambedkar.
I just want to know something about him.
Yes, ma'am. Dr. Bhim Rao Ambedkar is the architect of the Indian Constitution. He was the chairman of the drafting committee, and under his guidance, the Constitution got its form. Alongside, he was also a renowned economist, and he was a Dalit leader, and especially for the Mahar community. He led various andolans, and there were some differences between him and Mahatma Gandhi with respect to reservation and how to uplift the Harijan community.
Okay, it is celebrated. Some name has been given to this day.
Ma'am, I'm not sure about the name.
Okay.
Sorry, ma'am.
Where was he born?
Ma'am, he was born in Maharashtra.
Sure.
Yes, ma'am. He belongs to the Bombay province.
He belongs to that place, but was born in Maharashtra. Are you sure?
Ma'am, as far as I remember, he was born in. I'll check it, ma'am. I'll read about it.
Must. It is called Equality Day, and he was born in Mhow, Madhya Pradesh.
Thank you.
Okay, which is the last amendment? The last amendment in Constitution.
Yes, ma'am, the latest amendment deals with respect to the providing of extension of reservation to SC/ST community in the Lok Sabha, and the latest amendment has deleted the special provision with respect to Anglo Indians. So now the president who can earlier nominate 2 Anglo Indians to the Lok Sabha, or the governor can appoint 1 Anglo Indian to the Legislative Assembly. That provision has been deleted, or that provision has been made redundant.
That provision has been made. 14th, 13th, 14th, 15th April are otherwise also very important days. 14th. Can you tell me something about that also? 14th is not only the birthday of Dr. Bhim Rao Ambedkar, something else also. Can you tell us?
Ma'am, I'm not aware of this. However, this present week from 11th of April to 14th of April, we are celebrating it as Equality Week because 11th of April is the birth anniversary of Mahatma Jyotiba Phule, and 14th being the birth anniversary of Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar. So we are celebrating these 4 days enthusiastically with respect to upliftment of weaker sections.
Have you heard of Bohag Bihu?
Sorry, ma'am.
Bihu.
I'm not aware of this, ma'am. My apologies.
Vaishakhi?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me something about that.
Ma'am,
Vaishakhi.
Baisakhi. Yes, ma'am. Just a second. Ma'am, may I take 1 second to gather
Yes.
my.
Sure.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, Baisakhi, or it is Baisakhi is a festival which is celebrated especially in the North India, and across the whole of India it has been celebrated with different names. For example, in Maharashtra it's Gudi Padwa, in northeastern it would be Magh or Baisakh Bihu. So these festivals mark the celebration or the new year for new. It's the starting of a new year.
Why it has been chosen? This particular day, why it has been chosen?
Ma'am, I'm not very sure. However, if I'm allowed to say, I think on this day the Uttarayan, or it is something related to the solstice, solar solstice. I'm not very sure about it, but if I'm allowed to take a guess, I would take this guess.
Other members, please. From my side, it's over now at the moment.
Yeah, can I? Hello?
Sure, sir.
Yeah, am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
So, Mr. Vasu,
Yes,
you
sir.
have done LLB. LLB stands for?
Ligam Baccalaureus.
Okay. From which language?
Sir, it is in Latin. It's a Latin term, sir.
Okay, good. What do you know about Santhara?
Sir, Santhara is a Jain practice wherein when a saint or a person feels that he has achieved sufficient, or he has completed his life, he renounces all the worldly affairs and thus enters into a state of uh, uh, self-actualization, and he just focuses on the self and cut off completely from the outer world.
Okay, do you think Jain practice of Santhara is ethical?
So I do believe
And
that
can it be compared with suicide?
So I understand that there are various similarities at the surface level with respect to Santhara and suicide. But there is a fundamental difference between Santhara and suicide. In suicide, the basic suicide is committed when a person is depressed or he does not have the hope to live. He has lost that hope. On the other hand, in Santhara, the person believes that he has achieved what he could have achieved in the life, and thus it's a form of self-realization and not a form of depression or anxiety. So this is a primary difference between suicide and Santhara, and thus I feel that it is both ethical also and a valid practice also.
Which is the Article 21 of the Constitution?
So Article 21 is right to life, which says that the state shall not deprive any person of liberty and life except with the procedure established by law.
Does right to life include right to die?
Sir, this is a very basic. This question has been raised before the Supreme Court in various cases, made by Gyan Kaur case or P. Ratinam case, and the earlier Supreme Court stand was it does include. However, subsequently, especially in P. Ratinam, the Supreme Court has said that right to life means right to live with dignity, and it does not essentially entail right to die. But the latest 2018 judgment, that is Common Cause judgment on passive euthanasia, which provides for passive euthanasia. So that has again put in some concerns that we might be heading towards that right to die is also included under right to life. However, there is no such concrete view, and the latest position of law as such is that it does not include right to die.
Okay. So what do you mean by cooperative federalism?
Sir, since India follows a two-tier and three-tier system, So there has to be a cooperation between the different tiers, center and state, and also state and the local government. So this cooperation between them, wherein they work harmoniously and in tandem with each other, this is cooperative federalism.
Okay, you are from Delhi. What is this GNCTD Amendment Act 2021?
Yes, sir. Sir, the latest Amendment Act to the 1991 law provides for three basic amendments
Okay.
in the 1991 Act. The first is with respect to the rule making power of the Legislative Assembly. So there are two clarifications made on that. The first one being that any rule made by the Legislative Assembly should not be inconsistent with the rules of Lok Sabha, and the second one being that no rule should allow the Legislative Assembly or its committee to deliberate on the day-to-day administration of the government. The second amendment deals with the definition of the term government. So the law clarifies that the government would essentially mean lieutenant governor. And the third amendment deals with the reservation of bills passed by Legislative Assembly. So any bill which incidentally, not wholly but incidentally, is outside the purview of the power of Legislative Assembly will have to be mandatorily reserved for the assent of the president. So these are the three basic amendments.
Okay, does this go against the spirit of cooperative federalism?
So if we see the past history of Delhi in the past 5 to 10 years, we have seen there has been tussle between the legislature, that is Legislative Assembly, and the executives, that is Lieutenant Governor. So there were various issues made with respect to handling of police or with respect to the civil bureaucrats. So I feel that this amendment has brought in a harmonious relation between the two. So the governor LG would be consulted by the chief minister and the council of ministers on various issues. The bills would be reserved for the presidential assent, whereas there is any incidental encroachment. So I think it is not against cooperative federalism, but it is strengthening the federalism aspect of the nation and of the capital in particular.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Am I audible, Mr. Jain?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well done so far. I'm just looking at your resume, and you have worked with people like Justice Naveen Sinha, and you have done in law from a national university.
Yes, sir.
Why you want to shift to the administration instead of serving as the country as a lawyer or a legal expert?
Yes, sir. Sir, I do feel that lawyers perform a very basic or very fundamental role in shaping of the polity of any nation. However, at the same time, I also feel that along with the lawyers, the civil servants can provide justice to the society or equity to the society, and their work is much more diverse, much more, and the impact. I would basically focus on the word impact. The impact creation by a civil servant can be seen instantly and is much more in terms of quantum. So
Good. So you have also there in Central Armed Police Force.
yes, sir.
The result is awaited. It is already come.
Sir, the result was announced in February of this year, and I was, by God's grace, I was selected as assistant commandant in CAPS.
All the best for that. All the best for that. In fact,
Thank you, sir.
all the optional subject also you have chosen law in both subjects. That means your grip is very good. Can you just tell me about something with the uniqueness of Indian Constitution, Mr. Jain?
Yes, sir.
The uniqueness of Indian Constitution, which makes us different from others.
Sir, I feel that it's the beautiful mix of, or beautiful blend of rigidity and flexibility. So at the same time, we are rigid, but not too rigid to crumble under its own weight, and you're flexible enough, and not too flexible to lose its own form. So that beautiful mixture has made this constitution live for 70 years and is working very, very beautifully.
Good. How it is different from American Constitution?
Yes, sir. So American Constitution, if we see, the amendment procedure is there in the Constitution, but the procedure is very difficult. So for any amendment, you need for any amendment, may it be incidental amendment, you need two-third states supporting that amendment. And in that case, because there are 50 states, so the two-third getting two-third consent of two-third states is very difficult. On the other hand, in India, we have divided we have trifurcated the amendment procedure. So the incidental amendments could be done by simple majority. Majority of the constitution could be done by special majority, and the features which are federal in nature, which would affect which would have impact on the state or legislatures. For that, we would need the consent of the or ratification of the states. So this is a beautiful mixture of rigidity and flexibility.
And also America, they don't have a single citizenship, am I right?
Yes, sir. They do have dual citizenship, sir.
They have double. Another thing that, sir also asked you one thing about this federalism. In the word federal has not been used in constitution at any point in time, so
Yes,
far
sir.
I remember. But why didn't then we all talk of federalism in our country? I don't understand this.
Yes, sir.
The constitution.
Yes, sir. Sir, I like to go a little away from the topic of federalism. I'd like to highlight even before the 42nd Amendment, the word socialism and secular were not there in the Constitution. But it does not mean India was not a secular or socialist country. So
Yes.
similar is the case with federalism. Although the word federalism has not been defined or has not been used, but if you see by the functioning of the government or the establishment constitution of the government at different levels, we are working as a federal structure.
We have used the term union of states.
Yes, sir.
So this clash with federalism in the unitary line of command, which is more in sense of the union of states.
Yes, sir. So there was a debate whether to use the word union or federal or some other word when the constitution was being drafted. And Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar was of the view that the union should be used. And this word we have taken from the Canadian Constitution. There are two basic reasons. The first one is that India is not a result of agreement between the states, unlike USA. And secondly, the word union suggests that the states do not have the power to secede or move away from the India. So it provides us for the unfungibility of the nation or indivisibility of the nation.
That's great. Tell me something about Article 142, which was recently applied. If in that case, what is the sanctity of other provisions which gives rise to people in India? Supreme Court can use at any point in time.
Yes, sir. So Article 142 provides for doctrine of justice and doctrine of elasticity, and using these doctrines, the Supreme Court has been empowered, or it's the inherent power of this Supreme Court to take any action or to deliver any order or judgment in the interest of justice. So this is the power provided to Supreme Court under 142. Coming to the second part of the question, I would say that Article 142 has strengthened Article 32. So Article 32, which provides for protection of fundamental rights, that has been strengthened in a way that Fundamental 32 provides for writ jurisdiction. And by using 142, the Supreme Court can not just issue writs, but also order compensation, as we have seen in the case of Nilavati Behra versus State of Orissa.
Okay. Now, 1991 discussion of the provision about the religious places.
Yes, sir.
Now somebody has gone to the court and court has accepted the writ or what appeal. What do you think would be the implication of this?
So I feel that the acceptance of the petition and the court ordering inquiry into that is not in sync with the spirit of the Act of 1991. Secondly, I feel that such actions could open a Pandora box. So yesterday it was Ayodhya, today it is Mathura, tomorrow it might be some other place. So there will not be any stability, there will not be any continuity with respect to the religious places. So in a way, I feel that the 1991 Act was a very good act which streamlined or stop these discussions. By such petitions, this Pandora box would again be opened, and it might not be a very in my view it is not a very good action, sir.
But you have to be very careful, Mr. Jain, with your response in front of the board interview at UPSC, as a bureaucrat, okay? My last question to you is that the Indian Constitution is one of the best in the world, said the largest in the world is said. How far it was impacted by the Universal Declaration on Human Rights in 1948?
Yes, sir. Sir, the UDHR of 1948 provides for 30 basic rights to all human beings, and those rights, not all the rights, but the spirit of those rights had been enshrined in the Constitution under Part 3 of the Constitution. So the fundamental rights provided in the Constitution have some dealing or have some impact from the UDHR. But as such, UDHR was not blindly taken. It was most of the provisions were taken, but some provisions like under Article 14 of UDHR provides for state that every human every human has a right to nationality. So that right was not given, and a discretion was given to the center whether to confer citizenship or not. So in a way, we have taken many of the rights under UDHR, but we have not incorporated all the rights. We have taken the rights which are suitable to the Indian polity.
Okay. Very nice, very nice. I'm very happy that your level of confidence is very good, and also as a student of law from the prestigious university, you are very prompt in answering the questions. All the best, Mr. Jain, to you. Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks from my side. It's over.
Thank you, sir.
So, Mr. Vasu, I am Tyagarajan here, the other panelist.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning to you. Vasu, you have, again, my questions will be focused on law, since you have had an integrated course on that. Are you happy with the justice delivery system of a judiciary? It's a very broad question. I'm deliberately.
Yes, sir.
And if you are not, what are the problems? How do you address it?
Sir, I think that the answer to this question is not simply yes or no. I do accept that there are various challenges to in the judicial system, maybe with respect to the appointments or vacancies, or even the functional problems. But the judicial institution as a whole has made India proud, and that is one institution which every Indian reposes faith to. So I feel that because of that faith, that trust which the institution carries, I am happy with that trust the institution has able to manage for the last 70 years. So I am happy with respect to judicial system.
Justice Malimat Committee, I'm sure you must have gone through that. He said that
Yes, sir.
criminal justice system, this is about 2001 or 2, it is on the verge of collapse, almost 2 decades back.
Yes, sir.
What did he mean by that? The system, criminal justice system,
Yes,
is
sir.
on the verge of collapse. Or he used strong language, I don't recall, almost collapsed. Do you think so? What did he mean by?
Justice Mallimath looked into the issues of criminal justice system, and on that he made some observation. So on that observation he made that remark. So he found that the conviction rate is very poor in the nation. There are various issues with respect to criminal justice system when it comes to.
No, Vasu, sorry to interrupt, constraint of time.
Yes,
No, the blockage, there is a serious blockage in the system, whether it is civil or criminal. Tens of thousands of cases,
Yes, sir.
almost a few millions, isn't it? The data is there. They are there, they are blocking. There's a serious blockage in the system.
Yes, sir.
I thought you would address that, isn't it? And supposing it's like almost a black hole, to exaggerate. A case gets into that, and then you don't see the light of it.
Yes, sir.
And needless to say, justice delayed, is justice denied. It's not a happy state of affairs at all.
Yes, sir.
So, to be very specific, how do you propose to address the serious blockage in the system that cases, civil or criminal, sometimes take decades? It is scandalous. And compared to the Western countries, and we want to be a very developed nation. But by this index, it's a very serious index, we are nowhere.
Yes.
Yeah, your response.
Sir, I do agree with you when you justice delayed is justice denied. But I would work on three basic fronts, or I'll suggest three basic measures. First is institutional measures, wherein the vacancy of judges, the appointments to be made regularly with respect to judicial appointments. Second would be the functional measures, wherein the number of adjournments which advocate can see, the fast track courts this way. And the third would be implementation of ADR mechanism, alternate dispute resolution, so that the caseload before the courts could reduce, and there is an alternate forum which is equally competent, equally judicious, could solve the disputes between the parties. So if that could be done, the caseload would decrease because of ADR, and the efficiency of the courts would increase.
In the same context, Vasu, the judiciary is there, and then we are talking about Lok Adalat.
Yes, sir.
And recently, since we have also taken the exam and the Naxals, or left-wing extremists, we are talking about Jan Adalat. Recently, one of the Jawans was freed by holding the Jan Adalat. So the Jan Adalats of the Naxals on one side, Lok Adalats,
Yes, sir.
and our own Adalats.
Yes, sir.
What is this? What is this division? Then if Lok Adalat is what it purports to be, then what is this Adalat we are having? The other judicature. Is it not an irony? Why do you call it Lok Adalat? It's the people's court. Who are presiding over it? How do they dispense justice there? Is there a dichotomy between this Lok Adalat and the regular Adalats? What are your thoughts, Vasu?
So I do agree with you, and this has been raised by various in various reports when it comes to the constitutionality of Lok Adalat. However, I do feel that the jurisdiction of Lok Adalat is limited, and they can only deal with the compoundable offences in the criminal side and with the petty cases in civil side. So the basic purpose of Lok Adalat is to allow parties to come to amicable solution. It's a conciliatory measure, and thus to reduce the burden on the courts. Lok Adalats are doing a good job, and wherein the severe issues are there, I think the courts are there, and it's only parties to accept the award of the Lok Adalat. It's not binding as such. So when parties are free to choose between the award, I think it's a win-win situation for everyone, for the parties, for the judicial system, and the justice is served because of this.
Mr. Jain, a few years back, I think there was an initiative to bring about some structural reforms. They wanted to reduce the ambit or reduce the class of offences in which police can arrest without warrant. That I thought was a structural change. You reduce the scope of the police to arrest, and thereby then maybe restrict the scope of people going into jail. The protest came from lawyers, and what was the plea? The plea was it will disempower the police. So that I thought, and then we stopped there. So some of the major structural changes that the government wanted to think about, they were stopped by the lawyers community. I'm not being judgmental, but I would like to know your comment. One of the reasons, to just take it forward, anybody can institute a case. Police, the sub-inspectors, they can put it in the system. It goes into the system, and it clogs the system. What is the quality of the case? Nobody knows. So taking this into account, for the change, and that was stopped by the lawyers, and there it stopped. Do you think the vested interests with due respect, vested interests are stopping us from undertaking structural reforms. You are a researcher also. Would you like to research on this?
May I take 2 minutes to frame my answer?
Yeah.
So may I?
Please.
So I do agree that there might be some vested interest, but completely negating the lawyer's point of view or advocate's point of view in the name of vested interest, that might not be true. We have seen that lawyer community such they are the people who deal with the law. They are well aware of the law, and they are also aware about the shortcomings of the law. Even during the nationalist struggle, the lawyers were at the forefront of the national movement, because they knew about the importance of law. So if there and there are some challenges, or there are some concerns with respect to curbing of power of the police, because because when the powers of police are curtailed, firstly their authority would be curtailed. Secondly, the law and order issue might not work that well. So these are some of the issues. However, I would also like to put forward the requirement of structural changes, and some structural changes could be on the level of officer responsibility or the liability of the officer or the police person when the case is being filed. So because there is no liability on the police officer, we see many frivolous cases are also being filed. So if that could be brought in, I think
Got your point, Mr. Jain, sorry, we'll stop here. I got your point. Thank you. But coming to the Central Armed Reserve Police, recent incident in the Bastar where 21 people were killed. A Jawan was taken hostage and he was released. So on this question of left-wing extremism, what are your thoughts?
So initial take of the government initially considered the Naxalite movement only the law and order issue. But in 2010, the Honorable Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh had recognized it as the greatest internal security threat. And since then, we are treating it on two fronts. First is on as law and order issue, and second is development issue. So we are focusing on this issue from two fronts. Law and order, or the hardcore measure would curb the violent activities, and the developmental measures would repose the faith of those people into the government and into the concept of India. So this is the thing which we are doing with respect to Naxalism, sir.
Thank you, Vasu. All the best.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Now you have. Now I would request the other panelists kindly to give the feedback.
So I'll start with that. Thank you, Vasu. You are really quite well prepared. One thing that you should not speak so quickly, so fast. This is what I feel. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
One, okay. This little, the should be properly, timed or something, so that you are able to make your point, more impressive, and people can gather. That is this is what I felt. I don't know about other members, what they are feeling. Secondly, that I think that apart from your legal thing, the other parts are you are a little weak in that. So you have to work, especially about Jainism and all. Okay. And Santhara, I am not happy with your answer, because it is very controversial, and people have been talking about Santhara now. Okay. Especially when it comes to young women, when that young women was for that. Thirdly, whenever tell, as one of the members told you, that you should be very careful in choosing your words.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
That you have to be very, you will understand what I'm saying. So 3 points I wanted to make. Okay, otherwise you are looking, your attire is good, your body language is okay, that way is really good. So these are my 3 points I wanted to make.
Thank you, ma'am.
All the best.
Thank you.
Yeah. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
I think you will shave on that day when your
Yes, sir.
interview will be held. Huh?
Yes, sir. I will.
Yeah, please do that. Otherwise, it's okay. You are confident. And I wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Well, Mr. Jain, are you able to hear me?
Yes, sir.
2 things I would like to add here. One is that, in interviews of the kind which you are going to appear, the interviewer should never get this impression that your view are siding with a particular kind of thinking. So you have to be very, very impartial, in approaching that. For example, when I asked you about 1991 thing regarding
Yes,
the
sir.
places of worship, with that your personal opinion are different from the non-reality. So take care of that. That's very sensitive issue. So any sensitive issue, don't get provoked. And people will provoke you also at times, to get your reality from yourself. This is number one. Number two is that my observation as a student of behavioral science, that your ideas are coming much faster than your words. So at times you are searching for words and a little bit of problem in coherence of your presentation, verbally. Body language is absolutely fine. And you have already faced interviews, so I don't have to tell much. But these 2 things you take care of that. That when you are speaking, there is some कभी रुक जाते हैं आप. So that should not be there in case of interviews. These are 2 observations. All the best, and you are there. All the best. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr.
So-
Vasu,
Ms. Vasu Jain.
Yes, ma'am.
hello.
Okay. So, Mr. Vasu, you may leave the meeting.
No, I would like to.
Okay. Sorry, sir.
I'll take just a little time. Mr. Vasu, I agree with the learned members. It has been very good. Ma'am was saying about your reaction to Santara, etc. But I will tell you, because I am totally ignorant, I was impressed. No, this can happen. This can happen. People, when a member is asking about a certain thing, the member happens to know the subject thoroughly, and it's quite likely another member who may not have any idea, for instance, about Jainism or Sankara, while the particular member is asking you who knows a little more and has definite views, well, he or she may be a little disappointed or has her own point of view, but it's quite possible the another member may be impressed. In fact, very honestly, I was impressed because Sankara, I have no idea. But I thought the way you conceptualized that and explained how it is different from suicide. As a policeman, I don't know much about Sankara, but I was a little impressed. So point being is, ma'am said you are a little fast. Yes, you can pause, a little more deliberative. You can do that, but let it not inhibit you. Other because you are spontaneous, you are smiling, very comfortable. So don't give up, don't entertain any self-doubt. But regarding my own points, again, you gave a lot of answers and then articles, etc. When it came to the criminal justice system, the major problems, in other words, you must have a perspective. It is a serious issue. But unlike the Western countries, which are able to dispose of a case in 6 months' time, we are taking 5 years, sometimes even decades. Now, on this parameter, we are nowhere near the developed countries. So this is a very, very major problem which cannot be addressed, in my humble opinion, by having more judges, more courtrooms, etc. The other ADR. So we have to go a little deep how the other cases, other countries are able to achieve the 3 months period, disposal period of 6 months, why we are taking decades. In fact, this is one of the reasons why foreign investors are also, because there is a lot of inconsistency, it takes a long time. So criminal justice or even justice delivery, civil or criminal, is an area which calls for major reform, structural reforms. So when I put it to you, is it possible some vested interests are blocking and you are speaking for the lawyers? I have nothing to say that. But as another learned member said, you have to be very, very impartial. And if it is so, then you have to call a spade also. It is quite possible there are vested interests. Because if it's a law and order payment, the police have no grievance about it. Suddenly, the lawyers community speaking for the police, that was a little odd. That is by the way. So on the whole, I think you have done extremely well. You are comfortable. And as ma'am said, maybe if you can be pause and be a little more deliberate, if possible, I think that would be nice. Excellent. Thank you so much. All the best.
Sir, if I may ask,
Yeah.
sir, like the lawyer question, what I tried to put forward was, the vested interests are there, so I accepted that. But I also wanted to put forward that there are some legitimate concerns which the lawyers community might have. So this was my point of view.
No.
I put forward the legitimate concerns of the lawyers and also the law, why the law is required.
No, with the permission of the learned members, I'll take just 1 minute to clarify what I said. No, it's quite likely. In fact, you must put forth your point of view. But at the same time, see, it's not that there are not vested interests on the police or everything. There are a lot of vested interests. But you as a researcher, as an objective person, so you should not be, simply because you're in the law, you need not feel called upon to defend, I mean, you can always put there, but supposing there is a point there, you can consider the point also. So it's quite possible, it's conceivable, because in this particular instance, do you think that the lawyers were really worried on behalf of the policeman? We know the right, isn't it? That was a little odd.
Yes.
See, if law and order is going to adversely affect law and order, the police, the executive should have taken it up. No, it is going to have an adverse impact on the law and order. But for the lawyers community to come forward and then thereafter they shelved it. They did not go forward. So as a researcher, you have to see it in perspective. Not that we have anything else individual logic, but sometimes we close ranks because it is affecting our profession. That is what I meant by it.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All the best.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am.